Los Angeles, January 15th, 1947. A woman walking with her young child noticed something strange lying in an empty lot. At first glance, it looked like a broken mannequin, but as she moved closer, she realized the horrifying truth. It wasn't a mannequin. It was a human body, cut perfectly in half. The body belonged to a 22-year-old woman named Elizabeth Short. Her murder was so shocking, so brutal, and so mysterious that it would become one of the most infamous unsolved crimes in American history. The case would soon be known as the Black Dahlia Murder, and more than 75 years later, the identity of her killer remains unknown. So what really happened to Elizabeth Short? And why has this case never been solved? The discovery of Elizabeth Short's body shocked the entire city of Los Angeles. The scene was disturbing. Her body had been carefully cut into 2 pieces at the waist. There was almost no blood at the crime scene. Investigators quickly realized that the murder had happened somewhere else, and the body had been placed there afterward. Even more chilling, the killer had carefully arranged the body. Her arms were placed above her head. Her face had been cut into what investigators described as a disturbing Glasgow smile. Whoever did this was not only violent, they were deliberate and terrifyingly calm. Before she became known as the Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short was simply a young woman chasing a dream. She was born in Massachusetts in 1924. Her childhood was not easy. Her father disappeared when she was young, leaving her mother to raise the family alone. Elizabeth moved frequently, searching for opportunity. Like many young women in the 1940s, she eventually traveled to California with one goal: to become a Hollywood actress. Friends described her as charming and mysterious. She often wore black clothing and had dark hair and pale skin. Because of her dramatic style, people around her began calling her the Black Dahlia. It was a nickname inspired partly by a popular movie at the time called The Blue Dahlia. But Elizabeth Short never imagined that the name would one day become infamous across the entire country. When news of the murder broke, newspapers exploded with headlines. The press quickly turned the crime into a national sensation. Reporters competed to uncover details about Elizabeth's life. Some stories exaggerated the truth. Others completely invented facts. Suddenly, the quiet young woman from Massachusetts became a mysterious figure in the public imagination. Hollywood gossip, rumors, and speculation flooded the media. But behind the headlines, detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department were trying to solve a brutal homicide. And the investigation quickly became one of the largest in California history. Police interviewed hundreds of people connected to Elizabeth's life: friends, acquaintances, bartenders, soldiers she had met during the war. More than 150 suspects were eventually questioned. But there was one problem. There was almost no physical evidence. Then something strange happened. A few days after the murder, a package arrived at the office of a local newspaper. Inside the envelope were personal belongings belonging to Elizabeth Short: her birth certificate, her address book, and several photographs. The items had been carefully cleaned, likely to remove fingerprints. Whoever sent the package signed the letter with a chilling message: the Black Dahlia Avenger. It seemed the killer was watching the investigation closely, and possibly enjoying the attention. Over the decades, investigators and journalists have proposed dozens of suspects. Some believed the killer had medical knowledge because of how precisely the body had been cut. This led investigators to examine doctors and surgeons living in Los Angeles at the time. One of the most controversial suspects was George Hodel. Hodel was a wealthy doctor who lived in Los Angeles during the 1940s. Years later, His own son, former detective Steve Hodel, claimed that his father was the killer. He even suggested that police had secretly investigated George Hodel, but never gathered enough evidence to charge him. But the theory remains highly debated, and like every other suspect in the case, nothing was ever proven. The mystery surrounding the Black Dahlia murder has created countless theories. Some believe Elizabeth may have known her killer personally. Others think the crime may have been connected to underground parties and powerful figures in 1940s Hollywood. There are even theories that the killer may have been a serial murderer responsible for other crimes. But without definitive evidence, the truth remains hidden. More than 75 years later, the Black Dahlia case continues to fascinate investigators and true crime enthusiasts. Books, documentaries, and films have tried to uncover the truth, but the mystery persists. Part of the reason is the disturbing nature of the crime. Another reason is the haunting story of Elizabeth Short herself, a young woman chasing a dream that ended in tragedy. And perhaps the most chilling part, the killer may have lived out the rest of their life without ever being caught. Somewhere in the past, someone knew the truth about what happened to Elizabeth Short. Maybe a secret was whispered. Maybe a confession was buried. Or maybe the truth disappeared along with the person who committed the crime. But until that truth is uncovered, the mystery of the Black Dahlia will continue to haunt American history. This is Dark Files USA, and some of America's darkest secrets are still waiting to be uncovered.